not it's not happy energy, it's full of this kind of stressed energy in the morning. My mornings have radically changed. The week before I started placement out all the way in Kent, which is a long journey, I would wake up at 6 every day and just put on my gym clothes and just go into the gym. It didn't need to be a strenuous exercise. It could just be a YouTube video done in the gym. But what am I doing differently? I've still got noradrenaline, cortisol, adrenaline running through my system, but I'm using it to physically move my body. And a point that Czarina made, which is very important, is using it for myself such that now the cup that I'm pouring from when I go into work is not the empty cup from last night. It's been already started to be topped up from that morning of doing something. At the moment, my commute needs to start from about 7, so there's not as much time to go to the gym, but instead I wake up, I'll immediately just start revising. Doctors, we need to know the whole human body. It's a lot. But I find that in the morning, before I've eaten breakfast, in the kind of fasted state, and fasting is a whole different talk, but in the kind of fasted state of that first half an hour, that first hour, I can delve into new topics. Your brain is so much more ready to absorb things. So those of you who want to exercise, it's the best time. I switched it from exercise in that very first section to learning, because you will absorb more in that morning state. That overnight studying is not going to do as much. You'll study for 4 hours, something in the morning, which genuinely you could absorb in an hour, half an hour. My dad always used to say this to me, but now I'm grown up and I've realized, yes, this is exactly true. Why? Because you have the tools in your body. And if you use them wrong, you will feel the negative. But if you use them right, you really do feel it. And I feel so much more energized in all of those mornings, going into placement, having learned and absorbed and eaten and moved before I've given myself to my job.
Yeah, and the exercising bit, it doesn't need to be at a gym. It can be a home workout, it can be a stretch, it can just like deciding to walk to the next bus stop rather than the one immediately outside your house. You can make it so it fits whatever routine you already have. So it's easier and more sustainable to actually keep, rather than setting such high expectations for yourself. Small wins help you build that self-discipline that you can then move on to, I don't know, actually going to the gym or doing a run. But you don't need, that's not the gold standard you need to meet if you're not even waking up in time to have space for any sort of movement. So make it as easy and small and doable as possible. And then the next tool, and the next phase is phase 2, which is arguably our favorite phase, because this is the phase after most people have finished work, and it's when they've come home, and it's that time in the evening just before you go to sleep. And this is when you want to do low limbic friction tasks that you actually find fun. So this isn't the time to waste on being on your phone or looking at a screen. This is a time where you can be intentional with the hobbies that you've wanted to keep up with, but you feel like you don't have the time to do. So for example, this might be reading for leisure rather than reading for your job or your industry or your career or homework. This could be artistic, whether that's like film or photography or editing, painting, literally anything that is something you like to do but you don't feel like you have the time to. Phase 2 is the best time of the day to do it.
Exactly. And why is that? That's because of the neurotransmitter that is in charge of a good phase 2. And that is, on the board you can see serotonin. And have you guys heard of serotonin before? Yeah, I'm seeing a few nods. And unlike cortisol and adrenaline, does it have a more of a good or bad reputation in society? Good, yeah? We hear serotonin, we think happy, we think calm. So it's our calmest neurotransmitter. I want to say that now. The scientists can let me know if there's a calm one. But it's a very calm mediating neurotransmitter. Not sleep, calm. What else does it help with? Social bonding. There's loads of things that are involved with social bonding. But in this phase of the day, in the normal, healthy human body, it's the height of the cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, they now start to dip, and serotonin starts to be higher in this time. And so that is why this is the best time to put in your low limbic friction hobbies and tasks. What else do you want to put in there? Well, you can see we've put the cartoon of socializing. This is the time where normal, in cultures and societies, we've done this intuitively, right? Because it's the evening where people gather together as a family to eat. Do you guys, if you can give me a nod, if you've grown up eating dinner together at the table or in the living room, right? And this is an instinctive way that we use to the best of our ability what we've got going on in our biology. So it's not that you can make serotonin, but it's not that the serotonin is high because you're doing this thing. It's that it should be there, and then you're bolstering what's naturally meant for your body by putting these tasks in the right place of the day. And so phase 2 is now the only 2 awake parts of the day. It's important that this is clear because, those of us who are very busy and like to overload ourselves will often be putting so much phase 1 in this phase 2 that we finish the 14 hours after we've woken up still in phase 1. Now you're confused why you have high cortisol, high stress. You feel the stress in the evening because you're still putting tasks that are of phase 1 in phase 2. What does that mean? Your body now still has to keep going. It can't be releasing and relaxing in serotonin. You've told it that you're still in this now fight or flight state. You're still in this stressed state. You're telling it that because of what you put in this phase. And many of the time it's not our choice. If your job goes until here, I know I'll be working hours that even the night is phase 1, but that's a whole nother talk. But if you have the choice, the point is to make sure that you've shifted as much as you can into your phase 1 so that you can have a phase 2. And the most important part of this phase 2 is because if you do not schedule the break which your body has biologically put for you, your body will schedule a break that you never wanted to be there. And it's not going to wait until it's convenient for you. People will now suddenly get sick. Suddenly you're burnt out. Suddenly you've entered low mood, depression, anxiety, because there was never a break set in for yourself to begin with. We see and we have one of the best models for this in our own Seventh-day Adventist church. A time at the end of the week of a weekly phase 2, for example, of today, where what we're doing, fellowshipping, there's this social, eating together, listening to people talk and gathering together, journaling, Bible study, journaling, same type of mind process. We know that rest is so important, and that's weekly. There's already a model that God gave us for that. It's the same daily, because otherwise a phase 2 of some sort is going to catch you, but it's not going to be this sweet kind one. It's going to be the one where you're bedridden and can't do anything, and you just feel like you can't because there hasn't been this scheduled time. It's just as important. Productivity mindset and doing the best you can needs to include the productive time of rest.
Yeah. And so the analogy is of a wheel. Say your phase 1 is just acceleration and phase 3 where you sleep is a full-on break. What happens to a car's wheels when you're just accelerating and then slamming the brakes over and over and over again? You are that car wheel where you're pushing yourself every day, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., work, and immediately you try to go to bed and you're confused why you can't fall asleep, or that the quality of your sleep isn't good, because there is no gradual dip. You won't prime yourself to go to bed or to go to sleep. You're just going from 100 immediately to 0. And that's not good for you. And I think instinctively, that isn't the best way, because we are supposed to have this rhythm of phase 1 where you front load the morning, the daylight, to get most of the things that you need to get done. And then you want this phase 2 to be that slowing down, that gradual dip, so that when it does come to bedtime in the evening, you fall asleep, the quality of your sleep is good, and you get your hours in, so you can do it again the next day. So what Namooya says about our Sabbaths being the phase 2 of our weeks, you can think of Monday to Friday being the phase 1, and then Sunday, I guess, is the sleeping time. But I want you to remember that car wheel analogy of you can't be going at 100 miles per hour and slamming your brakes over and over again and be surprised by the time it gets to 6 weeks, a month, a year, however long you've been doing this, that now you're sick. Your body is forcing you to rest by shutting things down. So you don't want to get to that point. You want to daily renew and have a break and rest. Because I don't know if anyone's read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It doesn't only just talk about the ability for something to produce, but for that exact, so our production capacity depends on us looking after ourselves. Otherwise, if I, like a factory, shut down because I no longer have the energy to move, I'm not going to produce anything anyway. It's better to sustainably be productive rather than do 10 things on one day and then 0 the rest of the days because you've burnt yourself out. So you want to pace yourself, and that means taking breaks, and phase 2 is the perfect time to have that non-sleep, deep rest by doing hobbies you like.
Okay, and in the same vein, our final phase of the 24 hours, which is our sleep. Now, I feel like everyone knows the neurotransmitter for sleep, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but do you guys know the neurotransmitter for sleep? If you do, just shout it out.
There's a clue.
Yeah, melatonin, and I don't know if you can read it. If you could, then it's okay. I'll give you that open bookmark. So melatonin is that neurotransmitter for sleep, but it doesn't just start when you sleep, it starts before. So we just spoke about the analogy of the car wheel and how a good brake should be slowly pressing the brakes to a stop. Melatonin is that kind of brake system. The serotonin is the first part and the melatonin is the second. Melatonin comes about before you actually start feeling sleepy. It slowly builds up, very slowly throughout the day, and reaches a point in the evening before night that then you start to feel sleepy. That's when you start yawning, eyes start getting heavy, because your body on purpose in the cycle has got to this point where it should be sleepy. But I think it's very common, or at least I'll talk about myself, where I would get to the evening and I would yawn and maybe my eyes would get droopy. But then I have no respect for the melatonin in my system. I have no respect for the bedtime it wants me to have, because I might be yawning at 9:30, 10 p.m., but I'm still scrolling, or I'm still on my screen, or I'm still working, or I'm still putting tasks for now instead of trying to put them in the morning, knowing I'll wake up later. And then suddenly, I don't feel that sleepy anymore. And then by the time I actually put my head to bed, I can't fall asleep. I don't know, is it just me? Or do people experience this? Yeah, I'm seeing nods. And that's because of the way we think about melatonin. So let's play a game. Could everyone stand up? This is the melatonin game. And while you stand, I'll explain what we're going to do. So I've explained how melatonin works in general, but I want to see how long you think it takes for it to shut down in the presence of its biggest antagonizer, which is light. So light, especially blue, bright white lights, the lights of the day, basically, think of it like that, are the biggest enemy of melatonin. So the longer that you're exposed to the light, the lower your melatonin rates, which your body worked hard to produce all evening, all afternoon, will go down. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to say some times, and I want you to, and they're going to go from lowest to highest, and I want you to sit down at the point where you think that much light stops how melatonin will work. Does that make sense? I'll say it in a different way. So if I say 1 minute, and you think that 1 minute is 1 minute of light is how long it takes for your melatonin to switch off. Let's use the term switch off. And now you're going to be awake. Then you sit down. Just give me a nod if that makes sense. Perfect. Okay, so let's start with 1 minute. Do you think it takes 1 minute of light and that's it? No more sleep. Okay. This is at night. So let's say you've reached, it's at night. Sorry, daytime it should be off. We don't want it in the daytime.
This is for bedtime.
You shouldn't be yawning at 9 a.m. Well, maybe you'll yawn if it's the morning. You shouldn't be yawning at midday. Okay, this is the nighttime. You've reached evening. Maybe we'll say a generic time like 10 p.m. Does that make sense? Okay. So what about 5 minutes? Sit down if you think 5 minutes. Maybe you're on your phone screen. 5 minutes of light. Damn, melatonin. You've switched it off. It's not working. What about 10 minutes? 15 minutes? Ooh. We've got a front-back split, apart from our two going strong here. 20 minutes. Did I say 20 minutes already? 20 minutes? 25 minutes? 30 minutes? 35 minutes? 40 minutes? 45? 50. I feel like I'm at an auction. 60. 1 hour.
60 is 1 hour.
Yeah. An hour and 5. Oh, I'm not pressuring you. Pardon? Oh, yeah, night shift. Auntie, so you have to sit down. Night shift, we can't. No, you can stand, but I know night shift, we have to work regardless
You're
of
working
what the
against
cycle.
your body.
Yeah, we work against our body because we're doing the night shift. But just out of interest, would you still have stood if it was a normal night after an hour? Okay, then you can keep standing. Yes, yeah, I want to know. So a normal night, yeah, not night shift. But you're say for example, you're in your bed, you're comfortable, but you're on your screen. How long until you think the melatonin will switch off? It'll be hard to sleep. So an hour and 20 minutes? 5 hours? Is that 5 hours, 7 hours? Okay, 8 hours. 10. Okay, I will stop at 10. Thank you, Auntie. Can we just give her a clap? Okay, so normally I look at who sits down at 20 minutes, but I know there was 2. I just can't remember who. Was it you guys? No. Where?
He's in a white cardigan. Yes.
You?
Sat down at 20.
Who? 2 people you said. White cardigan?
Oh, they sat down at 25.
No, I'm looking for 20.
So no one sat at the right time?
No one sat down at 20 minutes. You sat down at 20 minutes. Could you stand for us? 20. You sat down 20 minutes, and you as well? Yeah. These are the 2 correct people. Could everyone just give them a clap, a round of applause? It takes 20 minutes of light, and I'm talking artificial light in the evening, for your melatonin to be depleted to now that it's just not going to be
It's not going to function as
effective levels. Which, when I learned about it, I thought that was quite short, honestly, because 20 minutes...
That's like one YouTube video.
One YouTube video and one TikTok comment section. And that's it. Now you're wondering why you switched the phone off or you switched the TV off and you're restless. I'm not falling asleep. But you know you're tired. You've felt that feeling before when you know you're tired. You know that you have no energy, but sleep isn't coming. And it's because of this mechanism. It's a combination of the light that you may have while you're trying to sleep. It's a combination of maybe you were in phase 1 all the way till 10 p.m., i.e., you've been working that cortisol and that adrenaline, which it finished its shift at 5 p.m., and you forced it to keep working, and now you want it to suddenly drop off at 10 p.m. But you've got those high levels of cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and then on top of that, you didn't even have phase 2. You didn't even let serotonin clock in. And then now melatonin has been forced out of the picture, but your body is physically tired. And so now what happens is you might still fall asleep, but it's out of this exhausted state. Not the natural flow of how the body was meant to fall asleep. It has a process, it has a purposeful process made such that sleep is going to be deep. And you're going to have healing and long-term memories get stored during good sleep. There's so much that happens for your body in sleep. It's not just a stop. It's a stop for you consciously, but the body is doing so much. But it needs it to go through this process for it to be the most effective sleep. So now, in a sleep where we've just described, where phase 1 maybe continued till phase 3, or you just didn't let melatonin even clock in, and now the sleep quality is depleted, and it circles right back to phase 1, where now I'm asking you to wake up in the morning and do a hard task, but the body is skewed now. The levels of cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline, they're no longer optimum. The one that you were meant to rise with isn't optimum anymore. And you can see how the system, which is very fine-tuned, it's made really well, especially when you look at how it was all made to function together. But now the system is skewed, and that's why it's so hard to now take up random pieces of advice you see on Instagram, or you read a book and there's one sentence you read and it says, just wake up, 5 a.m., a 5 a.m. club. It has so many good things, but if you just read the title, you think, let me just wake up at 5. But what this whole phasing tool is optimizing the system. There's a phrase that says you fall at the weaknesses of your system, not your desires and hopes and aspirations. If the system isn't set up correctly, everything inside the system is not going to be as efficient. And so this is why these steps are important.
And we want to acknowledge that naturally, this is how the world works. If you lived in an area or a place where there were no screens, and your source of light is just the sun and the moon, and you lived naturally, you would fall asleep at nighttime when the sun went down. You would wake up when the sun went up, because that's how we were made. But in an era where we can't avoid screens, and this is just how we live, we want to acknowledge that it's harder. Our lives aren't the same as someone who lives without screens, without technology. So what do we have to do now? We have to be more aware of our environment, that it's not conducive to healthy habits, and on purpose, by the way.
Yes.
It's purposeful that our screens are addictive. It's purposeful that the food we eat are bad, and it has super stimuli like sugar, fat, and all these things. We're not, our environment is not built for us to make good habits. It's built to take advantage of our most natural instincts, to make connections, but now it's connections online, to eat food, but now it's food that it's indulging and bad for you and causes health issues. So we have to fight fire with fire. So now, the only way we've ever learnt to have a good phase 3 is that we put our phone on grayscale, first of all, like an hour before we actually want to fall asleep. So your phone doesn't have like these bright colors that make you addicted to looking at it. And then there's also an app there's many apps, but you can also get a physical thing that block your apps so that you aren't getting pings and notifications that distract you and get you hooked onto looking at your phone again. This is the only way. If I want to wake up in the morning at 5 a.m., it's the only way I can do it. I have to put my phone on grayscale so that I don't even want to go on it, because it's not as rewarding, because I'm not seeing so many flashing colors and bright things. And then also block all my apps so that I'm not getting messages from Instagram, a notification from Gmail, and things that take up mind space. So then that's what I have to do. Then I have to just put my phone away, and I won't even want to look at it, or I can't even look at it, because there's nothing on my phone. Becomes boring to the point where it's like, okay, cool. It's not gonna be potent to my melatonin, and naturally, without a fight, you will fall asleep. So It's unfair that we have to do these things, that we have to be so intentional about distractions. But this is the world that we live in now. I can't get rid of my phone. I have to use it to live and to work. But there are things in place, there are things in our systems we can change so that the fight is a little bit fairer. And once you get into the habit of, okay, say I want to be asleep by 10 or 11, an hour before that, this has to start, because you're not going to fall asleep instantly. So you have to think about, okay, if I want to fall asleep by 11 or 10 p.m. to get at least 6 hours of sleep and wake up at 5, you have to set up your day intentionally for that. You can't just sleepwalk through your life and think healthy habits are just going to appear for you, or a healthy lifestyle will just happen. It's really hard. But what we hope is that you having an awareness of your day phases means that you can put things in the right place, in the right order, to use your body as it was built to help you do that. And with the second tool, it actually builds on from it, and it's called piggybacking. And it's building a new habit on top of a strong existing part of your daily routine. Because remember at the beginning when we talked about cues, this is what triggers your habit. So currently, right now, what you might be in the habit of doing is going on your phone immediately once you wake up. The wake up is the cue. The habit is then going on your phone. You can change the cues to then trigger other habits. Or once you are aware of a cue, you can purposefully stop it. So if you know that, I don't know, notifications on your phone are a cue for you to then go on the app and then end up scrolling, turn off the notifications. Make it easier for yourself. Take away the cue that triggers the bad habit. If you smell or see food that is bad for you, I don't know if it's like sweets or crisps or junk food, just don't have it in your don't have it in your vicinity, don't have it in your fridge. Make it as impossible and hard for you to access the bad thing. These are things that you can make and change around your environment so that it does help you. Stress is a cue for lots of bad habits. When I'm stressed, I don't want to cook a good meal for myself. I'm now craving McDonald's. I want the most immediately gratifying thing for myself. But once you know these cues and your triggers, you can be aware of them and try to make a change. Otherwise, if you don't know what triggers your bad habits, then it's so much harder to change them because you don't know what the root cause is.
Exactly. And so how can we use these cues for good? We've spoken about how you can literally reprogram your brain, and that sounds so out there and wild, but it is exactly what people are paid a lot of money to do when you scroll on your phone. They are paid to reprogram your brain to want to scroll more. That's their job. And so as Czarina was saying, it might not be fair, but the reason why we're giving you these tools is so that you're not just left in the lurch. So how can we use the habits we already have for good? So remember, this is our second tool now. Now I want you to think about what you already do naturally. So something you said already automatically do is brushing your teeth. And so an example I had put here is, after I brush my teeth, I'll floss. Now, why do I put flossing there? Because dentists tell us we need to do it every single day. And until I decided to make it a piggyback, it was just an arbitrary thing that I was meant to do. You know, a lot of times we'll give ourselves floating goals. They're not attached to anything. But your brain doesn't work on just floating things. You need to latch it onto reality. And the reality is I brush my teeth every day. That's a reality.
And I hope it's a reality.
It should be a reality for everyone. Twice a day, morning and evening. So latch a habit, whatever habit that is you want, latch it to something in reality. And so I've latched flossing here, but you can latch anything onto this. But just latch it on. It doesn't even need to be connected to teeth care. A second example is after I shower each evening, I'll pick up my Bible or my Bible app to read it. You can see these aren't even connected. You don't think showering and Bible study. But before I had put this as a piggyback. Bible study or doing my devotion more was a floating habit. I said a goal. I said, oh, I want to do this more. It's not attached to anything. Even when we normally say our routines, you've said you want to exercise more, you said you want to run more. And I'm sure it's not the case for you guys, especially after our talk. But these are floating. What's it attached to in reality? You need to attach it. And so I attached it to a shower, which meant that before I go for my shower, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm trying to reprogram my brain here. I'm trying to reprogram showering to be afterwards I'm going to read the Bible. So I'm going to put it on my bed such that when I come out of the shower, I'm looking at it. What am I doing? Reducing the limbic friction, reducing the amount of thoughts I need to have before I do the task. And so it's there. So after I've showered, it's right in front of me. Now, it's very different to a floating habit. Now I have to look at the thing which I've set up, and instead of trying to fight yes, I would have to fight and say no, because it's right in front of me. Another example of this, which I put up, is when I go to bed, I'll tell my family and my friends that I love them. Why do I put this up here? Well, I hate the idea that a productive person or this productivity mindset comes with a callous heart who has no face too, but there's no holistic growth there. And the love you have for your community is directly translated to so many health outcomes. You're going to be less lonely. You're going to have people who are in your support system. I know that I'm training in medicine, and Dr. Nomsa is a doctor. We talk to people all the time, especially in general practice. Who's your support system? These things are important to health. And so, yes, it should be a habit that is as important in your brain as running to share the love with your community, which I know we do in church all the time. A third one I said is, after I take off my work clothes, I'll immediately change into my workout clothes. This is a really easy one for those of you who maybe have that 9 to 5, or you go to work, even if it's not 9 to 5, any shift pattern. And instead of tying working out to a time, by the way, times are also floating goals. If you say, I want to do this thing every day at 6 p.m., guess what? The days don't always run in the same order. Your dinner isn't always at this exact time. 6 p.m. is just as floating as anything else because it's not a landmark in your brain. 6 p.m., if you were in a dark room and they left you there for 24 hours, how many of you could hit the button at 6 p.m.? Yeah, raise your hand if you think you could. Raise your hand if you think you couldn't. Yeah, exactly. Think of it like that. 6 p.m. is a floating habit. Latch it to something real. And so something real is I finish work. That's something real in reality. And if my gym clothes are already in the bag, that means that now again, instead of me thinking, oh, I have to go to the gym, I have to go home, I have to change. Now the limbic friction is so low because now I'd have to it's not fighting yes. What is it? It's having to say no to something good. Something I've personally added to this is, because I need to study so much, you're going to hear a lot of studying. When I finish my exam, I'll come out of this. But because I have to study so much, and I know that it's sometimes a lot of limbic friction after a long day in the hospital on placement, I now have my laptop, which I always take with me, and I carried my dinner. This is the first time I did this last week. I carried my dinner as well as my lunch, so that when I entered my building, which has a study room on the top floor, which is actually a really nice view, instead of going into my room first, because once I enter that room and take off my shoes and my coat, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave my room. I want to get in bed, or I want to just sit in my place and maybe cook, maybe chat. Instead, everything's in there, and I'll just go straight to the study room so that I can really finish off phase 1, so that by the time I enter my room, it's now more of that phase 2 environment. I've piggybacked that studying to a real life thing. Because if I had said I'm going to study every day at 6 p.m., what's 6 p.m.? What is it? It is a number floating on the clock. But in my brain, when I come home, go upstairs, finish my phase 1 as early as I can, which is sometimes a bit later, but at least I'll finish it and then get to the end of the day. And as you can see here, the last one is, after I wash my face, I will take my multivitamin. Another one I've switched. So I take vitamin D because almost every single person, especially any person of color, I think everyone in this room qualifies for being deficient in vitamin D if you live in the UK. So I take vitamin D. I believe in eating your supplements with so many things, but there are a few that, I believe take the one that will work for you. And so vitamin D is now tied to my dinner time because you're meant to take it with food anyway. So I will just tie it to when I eat a meal. I don't even tie it to it having to be dinner, just a good meal. So maybe something that's like lunch or dinner. And that's, again, tying the thing to reality. That is all that piggybacking is. Taking it from a floating goal into the real life.
And our last tool is visualization. So just as Namooya says, you need to tie it to reality. Visualizing that reality, seeing yourself do the thing helps you by how many percent?
85%.
If you visualize something, you're more likely to do it by 85% because you are visualizing, okay, what does it look like and what does it feel like to wake up and have to put my shoes on and go for a run? You're visualizing how you're going to feel during that, what excuses you might be giving yourself in the morning. So when it happens, when you do give yourself that excuse, you already have thought about this thing happening and you already have the rebuttal to yourself saying, oh, I'll just wait till the next day. I'll just do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow. When you visualize, you make it more real for yourself to actually do it when the time comes. So we're going to do this exercise where Namooya is going to talk you through visualizing a goal that you have for yourself. Just one. And you can make it as simple and easy as possible. Maybe it's just drinking a glass of water as soon as you wake up. The easier and simpler it is, the more likely you are to do it, the more likely it's going to stick, and then you can build onto that and make it bigger.
Okay, so I hope that you were conjuring up which habit it is. 1. So I want you, before we close our eyes, I want you to just raise your right hand if you've got your habit, so I know when people are ready. This isn't my right hand, my right, so Gabe? Yeah. Have you got the habit in your head that you want to do, that you have? And if you have no habits, is that because your life is perfect and you don't need to put anything on? Okay, I see more hands.
It can be an existing habit as well that you want to strengthen.
And it doesn't have to be something high limbic friction. It can be that you want to paint more, write more, cycle, talk to your family more. Okay, cool. The first thing I want you to do is to decide which phase of the day it's going in. 90% of the ones you're thinking about should go in phase 1 because they're new, probably. Some of them, if they are a phase 2, a social, a deep rest, should go in phase 2. And nothing you should try to put in phase 3. That's for sleeping. Okay. All right, are we ready? So let's all close our eyes. I want you to think about that habit. And now I want you to rewind. What is happening 10 minutes before you start that habit? Maybe the habit is that you want to read more. But what's happening 10 minutes before you pick up the book? What time of day is it in? Is it in the morning? Have you just woken up and brushed your teeth and washed your face? What are you doing 10 minutes before? What is the landmark in your day that you are piggybacking it on? Is it that you've chosen that you are going to brush your teeth first? And so you know that in those 10 minutes before you've left the bathroom, you've put on your outfit maybe, and you're sat down to pick up the book, to put on your running shoe, to switch on the YouTube video for your exercise. Okay, we're at the beginning of your habit. What is the first thing that's running through your brain? Are you excited to start? Are you thinking, finally, I've actually picked up this book, I've set myself 30 minutes to read? Or are you thinking, at the front of the trail in the park, oh, I can't be bothered to run. It's too cold. Be honest with yourself. This is not the time for being overly optimistic and not being realistic with what you'd be thinking. Because if you have any of those negative thoughts of, I don't want to do this, what are you going to tell yourself to make sure you continue? Is that you tell yourself, okay, we'll just do 5 minutes at least. Let's just get 5 minutes in. Is that you tell yourself, no, I promised, and I want to keep that promise to myself. Okay, you've started. You're now halfway through the habit that's in your brain. Maybe it was to play piano more, and you're halfway through, and you're finally getting the hang of it now. Maybe you're halfway through your run, and you're starting to get that runner's high, which are endorphins, which are good. Maybe you are halfway through that call with your family back home because you promised you'd connect more. How do you feel at this point? Are you feeling happy? Maybe you're feeling like you want to stop instead of finishing. What are you going to tell yourself to get to the end? And now you're reaching the end. Maybe at the end of this first run to get to the 10K, you finally reached your finish line, which is probably on a map on your phone or something, and it's telling you you've reached your first 3K, and you've reached the end. How do you feel? Are you feeling the sense of achievement? Are you so grateful that you've kept this promise to yourself? Are you thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do this again tomorrow? Or are you thinking, oh, I can't do that again tomorrow? If you're thinking the latter, that you can't do this again, how are you going to modify the task to make it easier to do it again the next day? What plan are you going to put in place? Or if you feel the former, and maybe you feel a bit of both, you feel so happy and the sense of achievement, how does that feeling of achievement take you through the next 10 minutes of your day? Do you think that you'll be kinder to the people around you in those next 10 minutes because you've achieved something you wanted? Maybe you have more energy to, I don't know, revise quickly, or maybe you have more energy to send that text that you needed to do, fill that form. The energy is sometimes not that visceral feeling, but just the sense of joy in your brain. Right, you're 10 minutes after, you've gotten back in the house, you've closed the book, you've put the cover down on the piano, whatever habit it is, you've finished, and this is 10 minutes after, and you're done. You can open your eyes now. That is visualization in a nutshell. We actually visualize all the time. Unfortunately, the human brain is predisposed to visualize sometimes negative things. You don't realize that you use the tool of visualization, but often we're thinking, oh no, like, I think my boss isn't going to be happy with me today, or like, oh, I think that today is going to be such a tough day, or I'm not sure if that person hates me, I feel like they're not going to talk to me. You see how we do these things all the time, and we might even visualize how the whole interaction pans out. But when you switch your visualization tool to be a tool for you, you are 85% more likely to do the thing. Everyone who just participated right now is more likely to do that habit you just thought of right now in the last 5 minutes tomorrow, if that's when you're going to start. And I would implore you to start as soon as possible. Don't let it run out, the visualization XP. Use it to your ability, because you already do these types of things for so many other aspects of thinking throughout the day. This visualization tool uses our reward prediction error in the brain. Everyone's brain has that last neurotransmitter that maybe people are thinking she hasn't mentioned this one yet, which is dopamine. We hear about it all the time, and people think of it as a happy hormone. It's more motivation reward tied. And so if you expect a reward, i.e., every time you tell yourself, I'm going to do this thing, your brain creates dopamine in anticipation for it. So let's say you said to yourself, I'm going to go for a run tomorrow. Already, your brain starts feeling happy, whether you decided to or not. Because it's like, I'm going to do this thing. Why? Because it's releasing dopamine, which is like a motivation neurotransmitter, so that you can do the thing. And if you then carry out that task, whatever it is you promised yourself to do, you will then feel that rise in dopamine that you've completed the task. This is actually the internal reward system your brain has. i.e., when people say, I'm going to do this thing and reward myself with, I don't know, a chocolate bar or something, your brain doesn't actually need the chocolate bar, because if you complete a task you promised yourself, it has this internal system of reward. However, if you don't complete the task that you told yourself you will do, the dopamine that you would have released, let's say if it's this much, you will now have a drop in dopamine much greater than the one you had anticipated. So to put that into context, think about when you're ready to eat. You're really hungry, and then you know that you're about to eat a good meal. I had this anticipation dopamine on the way here, because I said, ooh, I'm coming for lunch. I grew up basically in Czarina's house. I know it's going to taste good at the Filipino church. And dopamine is rising, rising, rising. How do you think I would feel if I came in? Nothing. Oh, we just did tea and biscuits today. No lunch. The dopamine that I had risen up, not only will that go down, but I will have a deficit now. That is the same thing that happens with every single time you tell yourself or you promise yourself you'll do something and then you don't. You end up getting this combined or continual deficit, unfortunately, building up, because the same way it's a habit to be able to brush your teeth, you can create a habit to stop, to like break your own promises. That can now be a habit. Now your habit is that, oh, I won't do something. Every time I think of it, I'm not going to do it. And so now your habit is to just continually think you can't do things, because unfortunately, your brain has now tied your promises to negative dopamine. And that's not the way that the brain was made, right? And so this is why we really focus on the concept of having one habit you want to fix, not 10. Because that one habit you want to fix could actually be fixed, could actually come into account. But the 10 habits you put together and the one that you could have done, because of the 9 you don't do, now your deficit is times 9 with dopamine, and now you don't want to do anything. And this happens all the time. But actually, if you use this reward prediction error, you take it one step at a time, one habit at a time. By the end of 3 years, and the time will pass anyway, you can now have multiple habits that are actually well ingrained into your system, to a point you now don't need to do all this programming we've been talking about. You don't need to think, oh, I need to do this thing in the morning because the morning is the best limbic friction time and I need to tie it to toothbrushing. We're telling you those things for that creation stage of a habit. But then, circling right back to the definition, then it can become automatic. But you can't, as Czarina said, sleepwalk into that automaticity for habits that are often good, are often hard.
So to conclude, we want to say for this section that giving up is also a habit. And if you continue to make goals and set targets for yourself that increase your dopamine and then you never fulfill, you build the habit of giving up. You build the narrative that you can't do hard things. You build the habit of complacency and just accepting that I'm not a morning person. I'm not the kind of person who exercises, or this is just who I am, which is false. We have a great gift of neuroplasticity, which is that you can change your behavior, you can change your habit. And we know this as a principle. We can change who we are. We are not stuck to the identity that we think we hold. And why it's so important to, we have these words like negative self-talk and et cetera, et cetera. Why it is so important to give yourself grace and give yourself actionable, doable, achievable goals is that you kind of build an evidence for yourself that you are disciplined, that you can make changes, that you have autonomy and agency in your own life. How sad and debilitating it is to think that you have no control over what happens in your life, over your health. Our health is the biggest blessing to us because it is something that we take for granted all the time. Last week I was sick because of I had hives, which meant that I had rashes all over my body, and I looked scary, I looked terrifying, and I realized how much I take my natural state of health for granted. I don't itch constantly. I don't fear going outside because my eyes are swollen and I'm all red. We have an incredible body that we sometimes treat as if it will just repair itself, and most of the time it does, but we wear ourselves so dry by not actioning the phases and respecting our God-given rhythms and our biology, that we just assume that it will replenish itself on what? Bad food, bad sleep, bad exercise. We can improve and make a great impact when we are in good shape, in good mental capacity, because our physical health and our mental health are tied together. So just like this image shows how it's a little step at a time, it really is the case. You can't change your life in one day. I know in the evenings, it's such a trend, it's such a phenomenon to think, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna change my whole life and everything's gonna be different, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and then when you wake up in the morning, all that motivation is gone. You can't rely on that motivation because it's just a short-term burst of energy towards something. Rather, you need to take the small little steps, the little hard limbic friction tasks, put it in the right time of the day, which is phase one, piggyback it on top of something else, visualize what that's gonna look like to set yourself up for success. And once you have success in one thing, that sort of discipline will spread into other areas of your life. And at that point, your habits build your routine builds up your day builds up your lifestyle builds up your life. And what a testament it will be to other people to show them that you've made this change. And it's not just in exercise. Like Namooya said, this is in our relationships. This is in communicating, parents to children, children to parents, opening up that line of connection. That's a habit. Communicating is a habit. This applies to everything. This applies to our spiritual life as well. So it can be applied in all areas of life. Once you have the agency to change something that you want in yourself, it feels like a superpower that you can apply to anything. So to end, a good thing to know is to just track your habits. Do an audit of what your habits are. Think about what your cues are, what cues trigger what habits, and then work backwards. Choose one thing, identify a suitable cue, think about how you can piggyback it, what part of the day are you gonna do it, and then track your progress. If something's changed and you find yourself not doing the habit, think about why. Is it because your routine changed? Something else is in the way? You can't just pick one habit and then it applies for the rest of the year, because we know that our lives flex and flip, and there's differences that you can't account for, that you couldn't have predicted. So you always have to stay agile. What you don't want to do is be stuck in this gray zone of, I've already chosen this habit and now my classes change at a different time and I can't. Those are just excuses. The quicker you can flex and be agile to change your environment, the quicker you can action these new habits. So choose one, identify your cue, piggyback it onto something that exists in your routine already, and really think about which part of the day you're doing it in. And if things change, life happens, be open and flexible and give yourself some grace to change whatever you need to so that you can continue to build on that habit. And some people say it takes 21 days or 60 days or whatever. It really depends on you. It really depends on your circumstance. There was a study that showed that a new habit can take from 81 days to 380 days. It really just depends on who you are. So if it's not sticking, don't beat yourself up about it. Continue doing it, and it really will make a difference.
Exactly. Okay, you've heard it multiple times. Could you guys tell me, what was the first tool we gave you?
Phasing.
Amen. I like that. Shouted it out. What's the second tool we gave you?
Piggyback.
And what's the third tool? You are in the driving seat of your life. Things that are very, very hard to do always have loopholes, especially when they're healthy. If the body was made to do something, find out how it was made to do that thing and action it, because you can. You are not trapped in a loophole. It doesn't matter whether you're my age, whether you're 50, 60, 70 years old. You can make these changes, and anything that's in your sphere of influence, which is from that 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book, make it, influence it. If it's in your sphere of influence, influence it. Use the tools you have, and know that your body was created to do the things that make your life better.
So that's our presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you for being such an attentive audience. I love when people are really absorbing. I hope that throughout you will maybe whizzing with any questions or statements. This is your time to raise your hand, write them down, shout them out. Any questions, statements, things you want us to tackle or go into more detail, please tell us your questions now. I think I heard that correctly. I'll let the mic come to you. Well, I'll say it anyway. When are we scheduled to come next? Oh, well, you have to ask the scheduling team, which is us. Ask, and we'll see. Yes, please ask.
Hello? Oh, yeah, it's on. I found your talk very inspiring. So I was just wondering if you have any key advice for a student who's doing A levels. How do you what's it called? Balance between being productive but also being ambitious.
Oh, I love that question. Thank you very much for
What was your name?
your statement.
Oh, Summer.
Summer. Oh, lovely. I wish it was summer right now. So, as a student, how do I balance being productive, being ambitious, and a balanced lifestyle? Well, the first thing I'd say is I do actually use these tools, and we'll often call and then be like, oh my gosh, it actually works every single time that we implement
get shocked
something.
ourselves. We're not saying we're perfect just because we know these things. But when we do apply it, I said I went to bed at an appropriate time to wake up early, I'm like, it was so easy. I actually woke up on time. It really works.
So we've been doing this talk for years, but genuinely we'll go back to a certain thing with our lifestyle. I'm going to speak specifically in terms of studentship. The main kind of goal of studentship is to understand and study a topic enough that when it comes to the time when you need to retrieve that knowledge, you can. And of course, there's a greater goal for every single degree, which is that in the real world, you can apply that knowledge. But I'm just talking that short term. And you would agree, right? So there's a whole talk I could do on how to study well, so let me not get into that. However, you need to set up extremely strong boundaries, because something that is often undervalued as a concept of studentship is that our days don't really end. You know, we're not working that the shift ends and then it's done. You finish uni or you finish a lecture, and now you have to go and study the material. And when does studying material end? Can you even give me a time that it ends? You know, there's not even a conceptual time where I'm like, oh, I understand the entire cardiovascular system now. There are cardiologists doing this for 20 years who are still studying it. So because knowledge doesn't end, if you don't create the strongest of boundaries, you will overshoot. And I am guilty of this. I follow our structure as much as I can and still end up on nights where I'm still doing something until 4 a.m. But what's that? That's not my ambition getting in the way, because maybe studying did finish at 5, but we have our health talks and we want to do all these campaigns and things. And so I now have the excitement of, oh, I finished work, so now I want to do my business things. And I can leave that until 5, so excited, forgetting that I also have a life that I'd like to be good again tomorrow. And remembering that the time will happen anyway. And so time itself, as long as you live until what we expect to be our life expectancy, is not running out now. But what will run out now is your serotonin or your melatonin or your adrenaline or your cortisol right now, and it needs to refresh tomorrow. And so creating a very strict boundary with scheduling and trying as far in advance to schedule things. I wasn't good at this in my first degree. Still got my first class, amen. But I was a very last minute. I put everything until the deadline. And so what that meant is that I did a dissertation in 3 days without sleeping in those 2 nights. Terrible for my body. It did what it needed to do, and it was a great piece of writing, but guess what? The next 3 days, I had to recover. And my body didn't let me choose not to recover. It just had to. But you don't want that to be your lifestyle for years in studentship. Could I ask what degree you're doing?
A-level.
Oh, A-level, sorry. Oh, yeah, A-levels are horrid. I think they're worse than degrees, honestly. You're in a very hard time in education, and knowing that is very hard, and that it is hard for whether you're smart or not, is the first thing. Just specifically do things that mimic the paper, which is active recall. Don't waste time spending hours and hours and hours reading, and you've never tested your brain how to recall. These are really specific student things, so anyone listening, just apply this to anything you want to learn. You must train your brain for the task you want it to do. The same way we said visualizing, we're training it for what we want it to do. Knowledge that you're just reading, think of it as floating. Latch it onto the reality of the questions you have to do. If you've read for an hour, let the time that you do questions be right after that, and then again, read something else and do questions. That is like the rhythm that you should have. And I've only just really clocked on to how that works so well recently, but that's what I do now. And so that's where I'll end for that. I hope that answered your question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your very wonderful presentation. My question is, adopting your concept, how can I prevent going into developing a rigid habit?
How to prevent rigid habits? Can you give an example?
Like, you become stressed when you don't do your routine or something.
Yeah. I 100% get that. I struggle with this too, because I feel like if I don't do this at this time, then I failed and I feel horrible, because it's such an important thing for me to, I don't know, say, for example, exercise in the morning, and I'm very rigid with that. I think it's patience. Things happen. Like, I know the difference between making an excuse for myself and something happening outside of my control that affected me not being able to do my habit. So if I gave myself flexibility that, sometimes things don't work out, I plan for my plan to not go to plan. So for example, being ill. I hate being ill because it ruins my routine. It takes me out of my usual ability to build habits. But the thing is, I think it's because I have this mindset of rushing, I must do this. But if you believe that, there is no, like, the only person you're in competition with is yourself, breaking a habit, I don't know, for a few times because things came up and you couldn't do it, doesn't mean that the whole lifestyle change is now gone. Like, it's not like tomorrow, just because you didn't do the habit yesterday, you don't have the ability anymore to do it. You've already started. If it's been a rigid habit now. You've already started practicing it out. So a few weeks, a few days where you don't get to do it doesn't get rid of all that hard work you've done already. And the better you are at being flexible with that habit, the longer it will last. So rather than taking the time to beat yourself up over this habit that you must do in this exact way, instead, if you say, okay, I didn't get to do it today, but why didn't I get to do it today? Was it something that I could have controlled? If it's something that I could have controlled, what could I have done differently? If it's something that's not in my control, then I'll just try again the next day. Otherwise, if we keep ourselves in a cycle of shame, guilt, sadness that we couldn't keep to our rigid habits, that stops us from being able to move forward. It will keep you stuck in one place. So you just have to keep flexible. You have to know that if you didn't get to do it yesterday or tomorrow, or a holiday or a sickness took you out of your normal routine, that it doesn't mean that all your hard work has gone down the drain. You can always pick back up. Like, the best day to start again is now. And when I was like sick and I couldn't go to the gym, I was like, oh, it's horrible, I hate it, I failed the 75 soft challenge, what's the point? But that serves me nothing, that doesn't do anything good for me. If I just accepted that that is the reality, then I'd wallow less and do more. So you kind of just give yourself tough love, but patience.
Sorry, this is not a question, but can I say something about summers?
Yeah.
Yes, don't be sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, I don't know if this is going to be helpful for you. As you were saying a while ago, every individual has their own, you know yourself more than anybody else. So this is my thing with, what I can say with you is, you need to identify your learning style. Number one is, are you a slow learner? Are you a moderate learner? Or are you a fast learner? So if you have identified what works best for you, that will help. Then the second one is, if you know the time management technique, it's called Pomodoro.
I use that too.
Yes,
I agree.
you can apply that. So you need to identify what is the critical thing that you have to do first compared to the lower things that you can do. So those are the study techniques. But as I said, everyone has their own techniques. But you need to identify what are your strengths. And then you need to identify your weakness as well in order for you to do something to make it stronger. Thank you.
That was really good advice.
Thank you. Amazing, amazing advice.
Yeah, I had a question about just a philosophical thing. So sometimes on the internet, there's like these trends of going ghost and people just kind of disappearing and then, doing stuff and coming out the other side. Versus what I would always thought of like, being in a group, talking to people. So where would you put that balance in the sense of some people think other people are going to distract you, so just crouch down and do your habits on
Isolate
yourself,
yourself.
or group work, whereas which do you guys prefer and
Did
what's the
you-
benefits?
Do you mean, when you said group work there, I threw back to school, are you just meaning in everything to be
No, in other
productive?
things, like not necessarily groups, but like maybe talking to someone,
Yes.
accountability partners.
Ah, I
Or some
100%
people will
agree.
say, no, do it yourself, and you're your own kind of
Person,
motivator.
yeah.
I don't know, where do you
Yeah.
put the
Interesting.
gap?
I
Or
would
is it a personality thing?
I think that's a really good question. Also, we love philosophy. So we should have done it as well at
It's
uni.
just
Somehow.
internet trends that
Yeah.
you
No, but yes, the philosophy
Cutting
and
everyone off
anthropology.
to keep your peace.
Exactly. It's anthropology even. The first thing I would do is, depending on the goal, know yourself, like Auntie was saying just now. There are certain goals that are tied to portions of alone time. However, I do not agree with the concept of isolating yourself for long periods of time because you think that that's going to be the betterment. Because, and we talk about it, social media, we also see it done, overdone when people use even the wilderness concept. And oh yes, going out and not, and when, say for example, our prophets were by themselves. Was that their whole life? No. And there was not a single prophet that did something where they didn't have support. Even Jesus, how many people of support? At least 12 disciples at a time. There were, as I said, certain goals have periods of time where solitude is very beneficial, but human beings were not made to be solitude at all, which is why in the phase 2 we have highlighted social, and why in the piggybacking I'd put that love there, because we want it to be very clear that productivity and community and support systems are one and the same. There was a very unethical study done on babies being left like alone, and the babies were given enough food, enough nutrients, enough light. There was no no physically biological thing wrong with them, but those who were left alone had worse health outcomes. I can't remember at the moment if they died or whether they just had worse health outcomes, but the only difference in factor was the fact that they didn't have social. They didn't see people. We know when children, if they don't learn language by I think the age of 5 or 6, they're never going to learn to speak. You know, so the social interactions we have feed us healthily. The last scientific thing I'll say is we know that people who are chronically lonely have similar rates of morbidity, which is just a fancy word to mean worse health, as smokers. Being and feeling alone, the feeling of alone, not just by yourself. Sometimes you can be by yourself, you can feel okay for a short period of time. But solitude is not good for us. If you don't have people you believe that you can communicate with and share life with, that is not something to pursue. That's something to change. Work out who in your life you can start making those connections with, or find a new area of society that to be in, because solitude is not good by itself. And I think the reason why society is pushing it is because of how it works right now. Right now, the way that, you know, society, capitalism, whatever you want to put to it, works is they like to say, work as much as you can at your job, at your career, i.e. when you're going to be probably away from your family, away from your support system. You don't get to choose to work with friends all the time. And come home and make sure that you spend your money on services where people who don't know you will do that for you, i.e. we used to run in societies where you wouldn't eat if you didn't have a community, because you needed to know the person who went to hunt. You needed to know the person who grew the food. You needed to know the person that had the chickens. You needed to have community in order to eat. We don't need to do that anymore. I can just Uber Eats. Someone who doesn't know me, doesn't care about me, can give me food. There's loads of convenience and benefit in that. Trust me, I don't want to go back. I do want the convenience. But you see, I don't need that connection anymore. We used to live in a society where if I was sick and I didn't have family or friends, I wouldn't survive either, because I needed to know the person that was going to give me the food and care for me. I needed to know the person that was going to make the medicines for me, because if people didn't care about me, it wasn't going to happen. Now, I know, and I'm working in healthcare, and I believe it's a good thing, but I don't need to know and have a connection with anyone. I just go to the GP who doesn't know me, and they'll get to know me in the 10 minutes, or I'll go to the hospital and go to the people that don't know me. I want you to understand, I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm saying that the effect they have on how we view community means now we think of it as like a hobby or something that's disposable, that we don't need it. But it is extremely necessary to the health of human beings. And we used to, as Czarina was saying before, we didn't need to think about phases and stuff because the sun set and it was dark and we just slept. Now, because of these good conveniences, inventors who came up with amazing things, we now need to work out what we need to do in order to not fall in the trap of, I need to go ghost forever, cut off all of my family and friends, and that means life will be better. Because I promise you, there's no person who's been lonely for years and years who actually thinks that that's the healthiest way, and that was who would describe it to you as the happiest time of their life.
Sometimes the way I interpreted your question is sometimes you can't wait for other people to join you on your new habit, lifestyle, whatever. Sometimes you do have to say no to things that your old friends, like, I don't know, you made a promise to yourself to go to the gym after work, but that's when your friends wanted to meet up. There's a point where you have to choose and put yourselves first, or if you have to set those boundaries, but they don't necessarily mean that you'll never see your friends again. It's just you have to keep the promises to yourself that you set out. I don't think that's going ghost. I think that just means you have to reprioritize. And for me, that means if I get all the things that I need to get done for myself first in the morning in phase one, I will always have time for my friends and family later on. It's when we don't prioritize anything that we then feel, I don't know, resentment and a grudge to our environment and other people, and feel like they are holding us back to who we truly want to be. But really, we have the option to tell them, okay, guys, know that I have plans to do this for myself this evening. Everyone will then accommodate to that. So I do think you shouldn't wait for other people to give you permission to start. You don't have to wait to have company to begin the journey. Sometimes it is a bit lonely at first because you might be the only one who's dieting or exercising in your family. I'm the only vegetarian in my home. But you have to put your foot down and say, this is the lifestyle I want to live. It doesn't matter if the people around me want to eat chicken or beef, whatever. I'm going to have to deal with that. So I think there's a balance, but it doesn't mean that it can't be complementary.
Okay, I think we have come to the end. I don't think that's a hand up. Okay. I think we've come to the end. Thank you so much for having us this Sabbath, for hearing our favorite talk. This is our keynote, and we love sharing what we have learnt because, as we've said, we believe you can do anything. And so we like the how. How do you get to that point is what we've described today. So I think we should close with a prayer. Does any elder want to do the prayer, or should we go ahead?
Pray.
Yeah, you'll do the
Yeah.
prayer.
Let's go ahead.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the Sabbath. We praise you for being such a mighty, loving, and benevolent God. We ask that you are with us through the rest of the day and for the week ahead of us. Lord, you have built us so wonderfully. Our biology is incredible. Our systems are magnificent, and it's only a testament to your hand. You are our creator, and you built us to experience life with such joy in the bodies that you have given us. We know that we've been given the health message to look after ourselves. And Lord, sometimes we don't have the best habits. We don't eat well, we don't nourish ourselves, we don't rest, we don't manage our stress, and all of these things hurt us, and I'm sure hurt you as well. Lord, we ask that you give us the strong will, the discipline to action, small, healthier habits in our lives that will make us more productive, more happy, more joyful, and better servants of your work. May it be drinking more water, moving our bodies, being more intentional with the connections we have within our relationships. We ask that we are evidence to people around the world of what a healthy lifestyle is. We know that our environment isn't geared towards making good choices. So in everything that we do, we ask that you guide us, Lord. I hope there is one thing everyone can take away today. We ask all of these things, and we wouldn't be able to do them without your help. So we ask all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
In September, we are doing something live. So we are going, all the churches that we're going to, we are trying to promote it. It will be on the SEC Youth Ministries page, but just so that you are aware, we've spoken a little bit about community and the importance of sharing and talking in phase 2. So actually, we are hosting a supper dinner series with no phones. So it's
No
digital
technology.
free, no technology. supper, dinner series, whatever. You eat. You come, you eat, you talk to people, and we intentionally make it so you don't sit with your friends, you sit with other people that you might not know, to build new connections, new friendships, take you a little bit out of your comfort zone, and connect like humans again. And I'm sure those of us in my generation, we've always grown up with our phones, social media, and so this idea is new to us. But I know my parents have always said, well, back in the day, that's how we spoke to each other. We didn't have phones. We just sat down and it wasn't awkward and everyone could make conversations. And I think there's a recent trend in more in real life events. And so we want to have that sort of space within our church, within the Adventist community. So it will be running in September for 5 weeks. It's called a Digital Detox Dinner Series, and you should see more information soon, so I hope to see you there.
Exactly. The name of this exact campaign is called Be Right Back. It's BRB. It's a take on that short text, which is BRB, which means you're getting off your phone for a second, but I'll be right back. We're just taking your phone for an hour or two. You'll be right back. They can wait. Real people, real connections can't wait. So that's the Be Right Back Club. We have another campaign as well, which should be sooner. We'll have the exact dates for that soon. It's the Bleeding Love campaign. It's a blood donation drive. We have already had our meeting set up with the NHS. We have the donation site. And once all of that details out, it will also be on this South England Conference Youth page. That's SEC Youth Ministries. And that is a drive for people to give blood. And why is that? Because people of color and young people are the least likely to give blood. But guess what? Who's more sick in the hospital in times of need? People of color are 10 times more likely to need blood, and we are really unlikely to give it. And what happens is that now it means in hospital, we're going to wait longer for blood that matches us, if I make it simply put. So every time you donate blood, it only takes 10 to 15 minutes. You save up to 3 lives, right, giving blood. And so why are we doing these campaigns this year? Well, we don't just like to talk the talk. We like to facilitate action. And so these are our 2 main campaigns of 2026. We hope to see you all there. And so if you're not on SEC Youth Ministries Instagram page, make sure you ask the youth. They're on Instagram. And you'll see it around, and I'm sure we'll send out marketing. Oh, amazing. If you do have Instagram or LinkedIn, are our emails there? We can give you our email. These are our contact details. Let me not block it. Take a picture, screenshot it, send it out, because if you can get involved with these 2 campaigns we've just mentioned as well, i.e., if you work in healthcare, if you work in mental health, if you're really good with arts and crafts and setting things up, if you are God's helpful hands, anything that you have, maybe you're really good, you work in project management, we want the best people to make sure that we can make the best results. We believe in excellence. We don't believe in doing things half-hearted. The Be Right Back Club is in a venue in central London. You know, it's not just back hall. We're trying to make it such that not just church people come, anyone comes. And so get involved. We're doing things, we're mobilizing. So yeah, contact us about any of that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much, Czarina and Namooya. Thank you for listening, everyone. And I hope everyone are empowered to their, what do you call it? Take charge, take ownership of their health. As you know, health is not just a goal. It is a way of living. Okay? Continue to live healthy. And of course, it says in the Bible says, actually the Bible promotes healthy habits and emphasizing the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Namooya and Czarina, and thank you, Dr. Namsa, for coming this morning. Thank you very much.